Okay. And we are live. Hello. I'm Elizabeth
Hello.
Monroy. Welcome to the Infinite Human Talk Show. And welcome. Let's see. And hello, my divine infinite human beings. You're all that is, ever has been, and ever shall be. And today is part 2, the good stuff. And we're talking about bright flowering now and the solution to dark flowering, of course, and also just how to bright flower on, and what the mechanics of that are in the the whole ascension of mechanics of the eternal internal Cosmea, that fail-safe host that we've now entered in 2011. We're going to talk about that, and then we're going to bring that into our bodies and how that is happening, the mechanics of what's happening with the, the budding and popping of our internal lotus flowers. And then we're going to just talk about what that looks like grounded in our day-to-day life. And we have Oliwia again. So Oliwia, I'm going to let you start if you just want to share some of the higher mechanics of the fail-safe reverse host, and the history of kind of how we shifted from external light body activation into the eternal. If you want to, does that sound like something you want to talk?
Okay.
Tackle?
Would you like me to only stick with the internal, or shall I also move to the eternal creation?
Well, I just want to, I think the biggest thing for me is I didn't understand this for so long, and in fact, I was kind of like, I was kind of upset because I was very, very frustrated because I didn't know the freedom teachings, and I jumped into KDL3, and what we're talking about is Ashiana Dean, everything's on Arias.com, but we're talking about the teachings that explain all this. And it wasn't until just recently it all clicked into place. So this is for a lot of people who might not know what's going on. So I'd kind of like, I watched Sliders 12 and everything came into focus. So if you want to just, and I'll add my 2 cents too, of how we had to shift, the huge shift that occurred, because as I stated in part 1, it didn't work the way we were trying to free our time matrix. So we had to go into fail-safe, literally. So
the way that I understand it, and I think everyone has a little bit of a different understanding of the fail-safe
perspective.
I would say that in a way we can kind of try to have a concept that we have the 3 domains of creation. We have the external creation, and that corresponds to the light body. We have the internal creation that corresponds to the plasma body. And then we have even the eternal creation that corresponds to something called the urea vapor body. And usually these domains kind of remain closed to each other. But when a certain crisis begins, which happened to our Cosmea, that the dark flowering affliction started spreading and its metatronic reversal was also very high, there is a certain, let's say, rescue line that gets activated, and that is referred to as the host. And that indicates that the internal and the external creation open up to each other, and that is allowing for the plasma deity core flows to come in, activate our cathedral complex network, and allow for the deity plasma flows to start running through the planetary grids, awakening the internal plasma bodies of smaller consciousness forms, such as not just the human beings, actually, but also I see the plasma bodies lately in animals and plants, which is just, I must say, very adorable. And in a way, this stream of the deity plasma flows, as well as we even got a certain upgrade because of the opening of the Trantine window, the cosmoversal Trantine window. We are also receiving the flows of urea, and these are the flows coming from the eternal creation. So we are at this stage where the eternal, internal, and external are almost like in this beautiful cosmoversal dance, where we are experiencing the activations that are happening on the internal and the eternal level. And that is allowing us to clear the dark flowering that we were talking about more in part 1, and to finally start to bright flower our plasma body anatomy in order to remove certain blockages that have been keeping us in a loop for a very, very long time. So this is my understanding of it. It's basically about this massive awakening, opening of certain gateways on the planet and in the entire cosmia that have been open, that have been closed for a very, very long time, and now they are finally opening thanks to the internal, eternal, and the external creation exchanging energy between each other.
Beautiful explanation, and actually, this is a very good thing. The positive news is that because things they had to get so bad, to have this kick in, but because it has kicked in as like a fail-safe mechanism, actually we have a much more direct route to return. Isn't that correct? Instead of doing we're not bound necessarily to the Adashi cycles of the Stairway of Heaven. We have a lot more direct access available to us to return to the deity planes, and for many of us back home to our own time matrix. Do you want to
To
talk
explain
about
it like from a very simple perspective, let's say that like we have like a few embodiments, like let's say you start somewhere in the deity, but then you came to external creation. Let's say you embodied on Andromeda, then Arcturus, and then planet Earth. So like the long way home would be you would have to come back to Arcturus to kind of integrate that aspect, then to Andromeda, and then maybe you can go to the deity. But that would take ages, that would take eons. However, the moment we activate our plasma bodies as well as the eternal urea bodies, we are in a way having the capacity of integrating all of different aspects of our consciousness from all dimensions. And this way we have, let's say, enough of the eternal self-integration in order to be able to transition into much more ascended versions of planet Earth. Or if you choose, you can as well go to other aspects of the internal creation that doesn't necessarily have to be planet Earth. But since we are here, in a way, we are kind of creating this bridge between our planet Earth in external creation, our planet Earth in the deity planes of internal creation. And there's also, lately, there's more revelations about Urea Earth that is in the eternal creation. So in a way, we have these three hosts that are kind of creating that beautiful transplanial bridge between different creation domains. And depending on our activation level, we decide where we go.
Mm-hmm. And wow, such a beautiful time to be alive, really. But it is challenging because we are almost going from like 0.0, because we all came in here and we all had to experience, we got the carbon bodies, we got the mind wipes, and that was just part of the process. We blended with everyone else. And then many of us who are being activated, and especially if we have higher activation levels, let's just say, it's like we're going from 0 to like 100, and you're like boom, pedal to the metal, and it's happening very fast. So we talked about that last week or last episode, that it can be extreme. You can have like ups and downs and things like that. So, but it's a good news if you can stay focused. And that's why I wanted you to share that, because in the dark nights of the soul, and I talked about my panic attack all day Saturday, a few weeks ago, and how terrified I was. But if we can just maintain that focus of this is purging, this is clearing, we're moving very, very rapidly. And I have to admit, I have felt that there's been a major escalation that has taken place just in the last couple weeks or two. I think I'm not sure. I probably, because the FAs, the parasites, are perhaps getting a little desperate, because they are, losing their food supply. So they're stepping things up. So I think with the plasma, right now I think they say there's a smile. There's such a hole that it's become a smile in the sun now. The corona, plasma emissions, and everything else is going on is so overwhelmingly intense that our bodies are just receiving so many activations and upgrades to position ourselves, so we can move into this our bright flower positions. But it is intense, so it helps me to orient myself, just to realize this is all good, even though it's intense. So you want to share anything on that?
I think that the fact that they're getting desperate means that we're doing a really good job,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And the way that I've been seeing this, if I were to be kind of like, I think that if I share like a specific example, it's kind of going to be quite encouraging. And it will give us also a perspective on why they're doing this. So I've been having that insight about the fact that I had a feeling that, I don't know, it just came to me on a meditation that the Bilderberg group would meet around the 11th of June. Well, they met on the 12th, even though, they began their rituals and all sorts of stuff a few days before. And it was synchronized with something that's right now going on the Middle East. And from my perspective, something that also increased the dark flowering effect is that the wrong people are being brought to the wrong grids. And then they are spreading the reversed codes into the grids that doesn't correspond to that coding to begin with. And that's leading to more and more reversals. And that's kind of been the thing with the immigrant crisis. Wrong people brought to the wrong grids. So right now, in a way, they're trying to trigger the same issue again, I feel, but I just have a very strong sensation that this is not going to work out because there is enough of Nomi gene carriers that already went through their initial stages of awakening, and they have enough frequency to be able to hold the grid. And that means that we all might be having crazy sensations in our bodies because in a way we are kind of trying to defend the planet, hold it together while it's moving through these very intense stages right now.
Yes, we really are. So that's good. I think it helps me to hear that from you, to maintain my sanity, and whoever's listening, I hope this helps you to understand, because I hear you. People have been reaching out to me. "Oh, Elizabeth, what's going on? I feel I'm so tired. I'm so this, I'm so nervous. I'm so, just emotions and health issues popping out, emotions all over the grid, all over the place, and crazy stuff happening. And now I just did a newsletter about, AI, and we talked a little bit about how they're, trying to do the black flowering through a lot of the AI. And of course, artificial intelligence was created for this purpose. I talked about all the resets. We talked about the Tartarian and all the resets that have happened to pull us further and further away from true north, Crystalla spiral. And I feel like this is the ultimate recess, to reset us completely in a totally artificial world, void of any kind of, Krystic seed of true life, So we talked about that, but I think also the cure for that is, and I think we're all doing that, is many of us, not only are we bright flowering in the physical, but we're streaming, like with this broadcast, we're streaming in all this positive, all this uplifting, true, we talked about false, people who are teachers and all this who are coming on too. But, I think people are starting to, at least if you can hear the frequencies in my voice and Olivia's voice, if you can look for authenticity, if you can look for people who share deeply from their heart and from their core, and come from the heart, we're here. I know you're here because we care about people. I mean, I know it's a done deal. I have no fear about, I'm not worried about what gate do I need to go through, how do I get out of here? That's a done deal. I'm here because I want to bring as many people, be such a positive impact that so much of Earth, the statistics are 2/3, but I don't want to hold myself to that. I want to bring as much of humanity, as much of Earth out of net Earth into the higher earths, into the higher dimensions as possible. And I think we're going to do that just by being ourselves and beaming forth this through to into the internet, and giving like children that are on there alternatives instead of all this dark, creepy stuff that you see on Netflix. You see bright, luminous, and the name of the game for me is pink. I've been wearing nothing but pinky, doing all my videos in pink, just higher the
We
high.
synchronize quite nicely with the outfits, right?
Yes, and bringing in the trifold colors, the pastels, and that is going to really shift things. So, yeah, tell me about some of the stuff that you're doing.
So, kind of just to talk more about the colors, there's that obsession among the teenagers these days that everything that they wear is black.
The golf thing, I think.
Yes,
it's called, yeah.
yes, and it's scary. I mean, I finished high school like a few years ago, and it wasn't that bad as it is now, where I'm walking on the street, and they're usually black, like, their clothes are just whole black, and their hair is like colorful, like this kind of reversed rainbow energy. And you
or
can
violet, a lot of times violet.
Yes, a lot of violet and a lot of green, actually. These are the most
Yes.
common colors that I'm seeing. So it's also reflecting a little bit from that collective consciousness, right?
The reverse plasmas of the
Yes.
yes.
But to focus on more of the positive aspect of all of this, I've been lately just kind of tuning in with the planetary consciousness, just kind of moving my plasma body down to the Nomi seat. And I asked the planet Earth, how many of us, the Nomi gene carriers, are kind of like awakened on planet Earth right now. And the planet didn't give me a number, but it kind of showed me like a vision where I saw for a moment the planet Earth like a globe, and I could see these tiny rainbow sparks. Like, there's been many of them, like especially in the Eastern Europe, and kind of like in the areas of Spain and Italy, there's been also multiple. And you could see that each one of these sparks was kind of radiating like a really massive, expansive rainbow field. And if each one of these sparks was to emit such a rainbow field, it literally creates like a buffer field around the planet that I would say is that absolute protectorate field that doesn't allow for any interference any longer. And additionally, we might be having like different detox symptoms in the body because we are clearing all this nanotechnology from us as well. This is actually also a part of the bright flowering process. You're removing everything that is inorganic from your body. That also includes the nanotechnology, while the other side that invented all these things to begin with, all these reverse technologies that they tried to insert into us throughout centuries, for them it will be more and more difficult to be able to live in such environment, in the environment that will not be filled with the 5G electromagnetic radiation, but with the deity Krystic plasmas and the urea flows. So that's something that I've been seeing, what is the actual power of a single Nomi gene carrier, and when they come together, they almost create like a powerful, amplified Krystic shield that is able to do amazing things for the collective.
Well, yeah, I believe what I was shown, especially during lockdown, is that part of the reason they shut the whole planet down is that Elon Musk and his activated his SpaceX, and they were taking pictures of the whole planet without people on it, so they could create this false planet, so that they're going to move as many people as they can. That was their major goal. So that's really part of the net Earth, that's not going to make it. But that's what the whole internet was created for, really, a net. But as we flood our positive energy and plasmas and bright, it's obviously doing something, because I told you in the last thing, as soon as I posed the question, are they dark flowering through the AI and movies and stuff, I was close out of Facebook. This transmission, thank God we're getting it out right before my power, it went off, in the whole area. Got it back on through divine intervention, I'm sure. Even Bold and Brave, which I pay to be on these platforms because my platforms are always being, flagged. My YouTube channel was completely taken down, and they started getting flagged as soon as I signed a contract with them on YouTube. So then they've decided to go to Rumble too. So this is also being live streamed on Rumble. But I think for as long as we have that window, because we will move beyond the internet, we'll move into more the Tartarian. But we need to really flood it because we are making a huge impact and we're waking up, the people that are contracted to be here to be part of this beautiful, positive, rebirth of our new earth. So, so why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do with the bright flowering? You started to talk about it last episode.
So maybe I'm just going to repeat it once again from the beginning. So the way that I'm usually kind of like, when I'm teaching others how to clear the dark flowering and how to bring back their lotuses to their organic encryption, is I usually search, whenever there's a certain distortion, I search for a frequency that has the capacity to override that distortion and to also trigger the organic activation, a certain frequency that cannot be reversed no matter what. And I would say that such frequencies originate from the Earth's Nomi seed, which is located in the Earth's core. And the Nomi seed is in a way that eternal spark of the planet Earth and essence of the Earth's eternal self-identity.
And the Nomi seed is like a green, could you just talk a little bit about the Nomi seed?
The Nomi seed, to me, it looks like a rainbow bubble.
Okay.
Made of these colorful pastels. Sometimes you might be seeing more of golden, more of green, depending on what kind of frequencies that Nomi seed is providing to the planetary field for the time being. So that really depends, I would say, what kind of frequencies you need, what kind of frequencies are being broadcasted to the Nomi seed. But in general, it's almost like emanating these beautiful energies of rainbow, this kind of pastel rainbow energies. And we can connect to the Nomi seed at any time we want. You can do it while you're grounding, or you can just do it in your room, whatever you prefer. And you can bring these rainbow plasmas into each one of your lotuses of your plasma body anatomy. And these rainbow plasmas can vaporize the dark flowering progressively and also trigger the organic activation and opening of each one of your chakra lotuses. And additionally, you can use these rainbow energies also create a buffer field around your plasma body so that the dark flowering flows coming from others or from the planetary grids, they are not affecting you. So this is a very simple way throughout which you can progressively clear your dark flowering.
Okay, and you offer that on your website? Tell us about.
So this is a basic technique that I offer to my students who are doing my plasma regenesis classes, and also anyone who needs an additional help. I'm also offering individual sessions.
And where can they find that? Just so we have that.
On my website, ezayana.pl.
Okay, and that's her name.
You can also, I guess, add it to the YouTube description.
Okay, no, I can't do that because I don't. Well, what is it? Let's spell it out for people who are on the podcast.
You know what? I can just send you the link here, I suppose, and you can find
it. Just say it out loud for people who are listening on podcasts.
Just spell it letter by letter.
Yes, just so they can find you.
EZAYANA.pl.
Okay, great. PL. Why PL?
Because it's a Polish domain.
Oh, okay. But now you're in Russia, though, right? Yeah.
I have been in Russia. Yes, I did some work there. But as you can imagine, as you've been taken down out of your platforms, I was expelled from the country.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Wow, wow.
So,
Isn't that
it has
funny?
been a truly interesting experience. I would say that the land is very pure. It still carries that very strong Tartarian
Yes,
frequency. I've been, to the Red Square and to all of these very powerful buildings that are still having that
yes, yes.
essence of the Tartarian Empire. However, I would say there's certain forces out there that wanted me there to activate the complex and then use it for their own benefit, so to speak. So I kind
Oh,
of had
I
to
know exactly where you're coming
get
from. Well,
out of
you,
there.
yeah, but you did your job. You did what you
Yes,
could.
it
And,
was a very interesting experience because the morning I was supposed to come back, there was a drone attack throughout the night, and they shut down all the airports. And I just had no idea what to do because, like, I had to get out, otherwise I would have to pay a penalty for overstaying longer than my visa says. But luckily, the airport was open the same morning, so I managed to get
honey,
out of
I
there.
know exactly what you're going through. I got ushered out of like Mexico,
Mhm.
the Yucatan after did my job as much as I could. And I literally, when I was in Sarasota, where the second gate was, I wanted to go there. I got ushered out by police. It was the strangest thing. I mean, it was like weird because these maids said I did all these things at the hotel, which I didn't do. And they called the police and they made me pack and they made me leave. I mean, things like that happen to me all the time. And I know exactly because I'm like, it's just not logical. So
Of
that
course.
and you're very powerful. You realize you just, they know what you're doing. So
But the most important thing is that you leave the place, but you already did your work, and that's really
exactly.
all
You
that
get in,
matters.
you get in, you get out, Yeah. So great. So good job. Wow, compliments. Kudos to
Thank
you.
you.
So okay, so but back to the focus of the bright flowering. You know, wow. That's huge. Um Yeah, that's huge. I think though things are shifting where the surface is going to be much more accessible to us. I really do. Don't you think so? That with the
Definitely.
because that's what
Definitely.
we do. We're right now we're kind of like creating little plasma buds, let's say, just like inside of ourselves, externally, little plasma bloods that as they grow, it's just going to there will not be room for on the ascending part of our earth, and they'll probably all flock to the net part, and that's fine, because there are those weak points that will be. I always see it just they're being shed like a scab as we completely heal, our earths, our ascending earths, So wow, that's very powerful.
Considering that we also have the awakening of the planetary bright flower gardens, that also makes things, I would say, a lot more easier because once these flows that carry the frequency of bright flowering start to directly come into our templates, that's when we will start to kind of see these small
Oh, will
buds.
you talk more about that? Because I just, everything I do first comes intuitively to me, and I was guided to paint my. This painting just came out with this. It's like the female in on Earth, and I just filled it all up with these flowers. I don't know if you can see it. I've just
Yes.
been painting flowers everywhere. So the bright flower garden of the Earth. Can you describe that a little bit more,
So let's kind of start from the higher level. So in the
please?
eternal creation domain, where we have, that domain called the Jura Lake Conservatory, a certain part of it is referred to as the bright flower gardens. And from my perspective, this is like kind of like a beautiful plane. It's actually quite similar to that drawing that you made. It's just, I always see that it has even more pastel colors, but it also depends on the perspective, really, and the area of the gardens. However, this is a place where the plasma templates are being born. That's how I've been always seeing it.
Do you know which like platform that is in? Is it like the cave cities, the ocean cities, the crystal
I would
cities,
say that it's going beyond that. It's not.
the Cosmea?
I would say that the Aurora platforms are corresponding to the density transposition platforms, and I would say that maybe that would be around the third platform, but I'm not entirely sure about
Okay.
this part yet.
Okay.
However, the bright flower gardens are kind of like having that primordial encryptions of the plasma templates. So when you start to work with the energies coming from the bright flower gardens, you can reclaim your original plasma template the way that it was, without any kind of dark flowering and all sorts of other distortions. So
Beautiful.
the bright flowering is possible thanks to the gardens, because they carry that primordial encryption, that essence that our plasma bodies were carrying in the moment of their birth. That's the way that I sense it about the bright flower gardens. And we have a couple of different locations on the planet that
Yes, that's
right
my next
now are,
question. Well, what
yes,
locations would they be? Do you know?
I've been sensing a couple. I would say that there's many of them, especially in the Eastern Europe. I've been also sensing that certain states in the US, like Colorado, there's a lot of bright flowering out there happening right now. So these are the main two locations that I've picked up on. And also, we have a lot of portals opening right now on the North and the South Pole. That's why we have the politically increased interest in the Arctic and
Greenland.
places around the poles, because they are almost trying to prevent us access to these locations, because we actually can get that very, very pure frequency from there. Especially that the North Pole, after all, used to be the location of the Hyperborean civilization that later kind of downstepped into the Ural Mountains and, became the Tartarian civilization. So I would also actually try to find the connections between sacred Tartarian places and the bright flowering, because all these paintings of, like, the saints that are right now in these churches, in my opinion, they were inserted, because in the past we actually had beautiful images of lotuses. I have like an incarnational memory of being in the middle of a certain cathedral, and the windows had these beautiful kind of like mosaic kind of styled paintings, but they were having lotuses. And they were kind of trying to present our plasma bodies.
And I think everyone, I know I have always been drawn to lotuses. I mean, they're just the most sacred,
Yes.
beautiful flowers. It just pulls us, it awakens our consciousness. So, well, I want to talk a little bit now about what this looks like grounded in our daily life. All right. To be bright flowered, to be spreading your bright flowered, what kind of, what would it be like as you move about in the world?
So we started this conversation where I also mentioned that when you start to get dark flowered, it's kind of like your moral compass gets turned upside down. You are not emitting this primordial virtue essence from you. And this is like a part of it, that if we want to be the embodied, bright flowering carriers, like frequency antennas that spread this frequency to the world, we need to also kind of act like a flower, right? In a way, be gentle, be loving to every single form of consciousness. There's so much that we can learn from the plants and trees. How loving they are, how caring they are, how whenever we are just feeling awful and just kind of want to escape from this planet, we can just come and hug a tree, and the tree in a way will almost like help us transform these heavy emotions and give us some healing frequency. So I would say that it all comes down to that on the 3D level. Of course, shielding and the energy work, but also be the change in the world that you would like to see. And that also indicates embodying the wheel of the virtues that, in a ways, that force that only empowers the bright flowering within us.
Okay, and I want to say one thing, and I think you will sense this too. But I think sometimes, especially us that are the vanguard, we're some of the first people that are really starting to step out and do this. You want to be that all the time, but also, I do think we are taking on a lot just because it's there. As we transmute this, the shadows, the darkness, the dark flowers, whatever in ourselves, in the grids too, we're doing it for the collective. So sometimes we're taking on just a little bit more. So we don't always feel like ourselves. Cause I know I am naturally a very positive person. And, and I started doing all this stuff. And then like, I just took a step back, I think, to really, cause sometimes you have to take a step back and then you can go back forward. But with that said, I just felt like, okay, I need this one. I had to expose the dark flower, but since then, I feel like for me, as much as I can, unless I have to step back, I just want to focus on the positive right now, really. And I've been doing. I shared last week. I've been doing silly things like, all I do is wear pink now, and I have Kiki, my little Pomeranian who's just pure love, and I put little tutus on her. We go out to these ancient, beautiful castles and Arturian structures, and we take like videos, and the last time we were in Edici, everyone wanted to take pictures of us. We were like, stars, and they wanted to they were applauding us and everything. It was like we were some show, but they were just smiled when they saw us, and then that those are the I mean, I've done these heavy duty talks, but I just do those little shorts, and then I put like pink flowers and sparkles and beautiful music on it, like with TikTok and stuff,
Mhm.
and those have been getting like 2,000 hits, and they've been from young, a lot of young people. Well, I say young people, they've been like 25 to 45. I've been looking at the demographics. Italians, who don't speak English, who don't hear, but it's just like they love it, and and so I think even little things like that, when you look at the gothic, the black stuff, that they're the skulls and all that stuff, and then you bombard, people in the physical, we do it, of course, and then, we put it on the net. I think just things like that, and I've been painting and taking pictures of my flowers and putting them around, just simple little things. It doesn't have to be intellectual, and just pouring that into the internet, and they're going to have a hard time screening that stuff.
Of course. I
So,
totally agree with you. And in a way, it's also about the fact that you are the change. You carry almost like a certain blueprint that more of the people will pick up, and soon pink is going to replace the black.
yes, and I used to wear black because, like I said before, when I lost my twin soul, I think I spent the past 20 years in black. That's all I would wear, was just, morning, morning, morning. And, of course, that's where I was. But, now it's just beside, I think deep down inside, it's a choice to live. It's a choice to celebrate life. It's a choice, like you said, to celebrate and connect with beautiful nature. I filled my whole terrace with the most gorgeous flowers. I brought one in here. I mean, and everyone's like, "Oh, I love your flowers." And I mean, these are people that don't, you know, we might not even speak the same language. They might not ever be able to understand colonic science or high-minded metaphysics, but just the energy, the frequency that we transmit, and moving about with love, moving about with ethics and morals and gentleness, and the other day when I had this panic attack, because sometimes I think many of us cocoon to ourselves, because, well, we've had to, because we get so attacked sometimes when we go out.
Yes.
But I was like, I couldn't be alone. So I was just talking to anybody and everyone. And I found myself really surrendering just to that flow inside. And I just found myself connecting with people way beyond, who are you? What are you? Just like all walks of life, because sometimes we're like, oh, are you vaccinated? Oh, do you know what you're talking? We get to that thing like, you, me, you're not part of my tribe. You're not Krystic. You're not spiritual. You're one of those. But I just think we have to let go of that war, like you talked about, that frequency, those differences between us now and just find all that unity, because we all are sparkles of divinity, and come from there. And when you meet people there, I found my day was so easy because there was no opposition. There was no, oh no, they're going to do this to me, because I was vulnerable. And I think when you are, you know, um, and I know we're always afraid, like shields up or whatever, but I think most people, of course, we're tough. We can put our boundaries up if we need to, but if you can drop them and just really merge, I think that is your bright flowers are just going to bleed into theirs and just, pop them. What do you think?
Definitely. Because I would say that one Nomijin carrier has the potential to rescue hundreds of people affected with the dark flowering. So as
Yeah.
long as you stay true to your frequency and you truly feel and embody that bright flowering within you, it is always an offer. It is always a matter of the choice of the others that either choose to take it or not. But as long
Yeah.
as you carry that offer, it's there, and more individuals are going to take it.
Yeah, yeah, and I know you didn't mean it, but with the word rescue, sometimes people think, and we talked about this at other talk shows, like it's not my cross. We in the past we've been martyrs, we've rescued people, we tried to take them on and pull them up, and you're right. It's not like that. It's like I said, just being around them. You don't have
Yes.
to do
And
a thing. Just be yourself. That's all.
considering that we have the host, we don't have to be martyrs anymore. We don't have to process someone else's distortions through our field like we used to do it for ages,
Oh,
because
that
we have
feels
the
good.
host. So anyone can just, connect to the Nomi seed, to the host field, to the absolute protectorate, and this way they can transmute their own dark flowering distortions, whatever it is. We can only serve as that inspiring force that will trigger them to do that.
Yeah, and you know what? It feels so good. I just made that shift, huge shift. I did a whole, my talk shows are always about where I'm at, at the time. And I think it was around
Mhm.
Easter. I said, not my cross, not doing more, not saving anyone anymore. And then the other day I was sitting there about this big, beautiful pink sun hat, all my pink on Shin. I can even promote them, but I don't. I'm not a sponsor. They don't sponsor me, but because they have curvy, so finally I don't have to be skinny to wear beautiful clothes. They have plus curvy clothes, and I was just wearing this beautiful pink hat, and to be on the sun. And this woman, because I'm in an international place, so this woman from, I don't know where she was from, Ukraine, or we have everyone from here, England, so she just came up and she said, "I love your style." And I just knew she was saying, I love your energy. I love what you're projecting. I'm picking it up. Thank you for projecting it, And I think it was good because I do cocoon a lot because I have great energy and I just like to keep it pristine, that kind of thing.
Of
So
course.
because of my, panic state, I just sat myself down at this cafe and spent the whole afternoon there, which I usually wouldn't do. I met people from all over the world. I didn't judge them. They all came up and talked to me. They just loved me and Kiki. And, it's that simple. It's that easy. And I think that's what we're here to do. Just be our authentic selves, enjoy our lives. Living, and someone else saw me in Terramina doing the same thing at a cafe, and she said, she was on my talk show. She said, living the 5-star life. I'm like, yeah, I guess I am. Whatever, however you interpret it, but going out, enjoying yourself. You don't have to be wealthy to do it. You can just be out in nature and on the beach or wherever you're led to go, just go there. Because I know when I follow my intuition, I end up meeting the most amazing people. Do you have the
And the
same?
most amazing opportunities, right?
Yes, it's just, oh wow, I can't believe I met you, and it's just magic. It's magic. So I think that is the way, there's no, I think it's time to walk away from the story of war frequency.
Yes.
You know, it's time to walk away from that story, because that's just heavy, and it's not adding to your frequency. And just choose joy, choose the path of joy, and live it out loud. Live it out loud now. We don't have to shriek. We don't have to, oh my God, I'm so afraid to go out there because, they're going to stone me or burn me, or, I mean, that's our racial memory.
Well, it's not the Middle Ages timeline anymore.
Yes, yes. So, any other suggestions you would give to people to pop their flowers and let them shine?
I think that we talked about the most important points. At the moment, I think that this is everything that, at least from my side, I felt like I wanted to share about that. We should keep in mind that, as we're kind of had that timeline split, there might be people who are going to be in the fear energy, and there's going to be that timeline that we are talking about, where there's peace, there's harmony, and there's just the bright flowering and us being in that beautiful co-creation, because after all, we are not really separate from each other. We are all aspects of the one primordial, and the bright flowering is also assisting us with being able to see that we are all the aspects of that one eternal consciousness. So it is always a matter of the free will choice, whether we stay in the fear or the joy frequency.
And I want to say something too that I think it speaks to you too. I've been in this body for quite a while, and a lot of work Peter and I did was going into, I think, places to just be. We were just in love, to live, to make love, and spread that. But we were sent to really dark places. We were sent to, I think, places that were going to really, if we hadn't gone there, they would have fragmented the grids and things, And some of the places, back one place I went, I was sent to teach school. I think a tornado came and blew it away, so some of them didn't take it. And we were ushered out, paid to leave a lot of these places, but at least we went there. And, and even where I am right now, it was the place that gave birth to the mafia. So, and I've been very good at, just creating my own little heaven on earth in my own space. But I feel like now I'm just getting the sense, and you can tell me if you are, because like with Russia, the same thing. I feel like almost it's time for us to go to the higher places. It's like we've done our tour of Dur in the gunky toilet places, and now we can actually move up to places that are really humming, and then shine even brighter. And that's the ascending earth. And then those who choose to, they like that stuff. They like, the bottom of the toilet. Let's say they like the scum. They like to be living in AI coffin stacked cities, and dark, like the movies like the Star Wars, the ones that came later, Phantom Earth, when they took over and everything's all AI, dark worlds. Well, I think they'll gravitate more to that, because they won't want to be, and they won't be able to be in these higher frequencies, because like you said, it'll just expel them, be like
Definitely
roaches. So I think we're just starting. I think that shift has just occurred, and we're seeing that now, and we're seeing the net Earth is, because the timelines just popped, to the 27th of May, and the Fibonacci and the Crystallis spiral are even more separating. So we're going to see that, and it's going to be like they don't exist, and it's going to be like we don't exist for them, and I felt like, especially this last broadcast, it's like I've done everything I possibly could to issue the final warning. You know what I'm saying? It's like The gates are now closing. Choose which plane you're going to get on. Hear me loud and clear. And I really feel like that's where we're at right now. The gates are closing. Are you going to choose the AI, the artificial world, and put all your quantum in digital currency and all these, that let AI think for you, create for you, write for you, create your art for you, tell you what God is, be your spiritual teacher? Because a lot of people are, oh, that's so cool. Or are you going to hold the grounds and really connect with, our Mother Earth, bright flower, find your own bliss, think for yourself, connect directly with infinite God source, and just, live in the order of love from the heart. So I think those are the choices in a
Absolutely.
nutshell.
And I would say that something that will happen for sure is that not only will be kind of like freed from that duty to go to the fallen places and try to kind of fix the frequency out there, but will be also called to the places, let's say, of our origin, the places that our coding belongs to, so that we could kind of anchor our frequencies there and almost create our own mini bright flower gardens on the planet. That's kind of like the timeline that I would say that is a part of the Krystic spiral.
And become the gardeners of our own bright flower gardens.
Precisely.
And that's, I think, part of the communities that are growing, where we're going to get to really have fun and create. And I think part of that is, of course, in the organic earth. And then also I've always been called to create films, so I want to create like films and movies and media. And I even am thinking I've been guided to create a foundation for the creative expression of women in media, so we flood with beautiful films, powerful films, art with, these wonderful bright flowered pastel colors, and just create, create all this beautiful stuff. So,
Beautiful.
all right. Well, and I also want to say all this is on Arias.com too. So, and she's doing Hostmaster series now, and there's all kinds of things you can do that are for free too, like plasma activations. So pay my respects to those who went before me. And Oliwia, thank you so much for joining us one more time. How can we get in touch with you?
Thank you so much for inviting me, Elizabeth. You can find me on my Facebook page, Oliwia Ezayana, or on my website as well. And I also have my YouTube channel under the same name. So
Okay.
I also have a separate video about the bright flowering and its kind of mechanics, how it's affecting your mind, and what are the possible solutions to this. I think I recorded it over a year and a half ago, so it's
excellent video. I recommend everyone go check out her YouTube channel. She has some wonderful work on there. And always a pleasure, always such a joy to see your beautiful, bright flowering face.
likewise. So I'm sure we will do this again when the time is right. And
We
for now,
will,
thank
we
you so much,
will. It's
and thank
just
you to everyone watching us.
the best is yet to come. Okay. Ciao, amore. Bye. I love
Bye
you so
bye.
much. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you. I love you all so very much. Remember, pop your bright flowers and shine. Ciao for now.
Bye bye.
Ciao.